Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Welcome here. This is your host Mu'awiyah Tucker, and we're here to do a short translation of a video from a sheikh who is speaking about Bitcoin. Now, any of you who have been following this space since, I don't know, 2017 or even before that, you know that the fatwa or the statements of the scholars towards Bitcoin hasn't been very positive for the most part. There have been some scholars who have shown um, positive signs towards accepting Bitcoin, say it's halal and permissible, or at least saying Allah's best. Whereas the vast majority of scholars generally have taken the stance that Bitcoin is haram, speculation, gambling, unknown issuance, not from government, that kind of stuff. And generally speaking, those opinions or that opinion kind of stems from one or two sources, and then everyone else pretty much just follows on from that. However, as I predicted, I said to people that when scholars start to learn more about Bitcoin, when it becomes more ubiquitous and more well known and used by people, then you start seeing their positions change. And this is exactly what we're seeing. So without any delay, let's get straight into this in the translation, and then I'll do a small commentary where relevant. Let's get started. Here we have a translation from Shaykh Sa'd ibn Turkee, al-Khathlaan, I think it is. Apparently, he's one of the main scholars of Saudi Arabia, especially in the issue of finance. Whoever that means to you, I don't know. I don't know him personally, or I don't really know of him particularly. I do recognize his face, but I have to say, my own failings, I haven't been keeping up with what's going on in Saudi Arabia and so on and so forth. I mean, I'm kind of an old school guy. I like my Ibn Baz, Ibn Uthaymeen, Shaykh Al-Albani, that kind of stuff. But nonetheless, he's definitely one of the scholars. So let's have a go. Sounding.
التعامل بالعملات الرقمية مثل البيتكوين. كنت متوقفا فيها مدة طويلة، ثم ظهر لي مؤخرا بعد التباحث مع بعض طلاب العلم.
So the question was in regards to interacting with Bitcoin, or interacting with Bitcoin. A very simple question, and what's good about this question, and I really like this question, is that he's asking about Bitcoin, not asking about cryptocurrencies. Now, reason why that's a good question is because crypto is a massive basket of everything. It's like saying is it permissible to use fiat currency? Now, fiat currency is a big basket. It includes the dollar, it includes the Turkish lira, it includes everything. I'm not saying that the fatwa is different based on different currencies. I'm just saying that there are many things that could be considered fiat. Or like saying, is it permissible to drink, I don't know, drinks out of a can? Lots of things could be drunk out of a can. Good things, bad things, so on. So the fact that they homed in on Bitcoin is great. Let me just go back a bit.
البيتكوين كنت متوقفا فيها مدة طويلة، ثم ظهر لي مؤخرا.
So he said he used to have a position of tawaqquf, and tawaqquf means to hold back and not give an opinion, and it was like that for a while. And again, this is generally speaking, some scholars have the approach where they would wait until they get a deep understanding of something before they give an answer. Some may give an answer based on the understanding that they've got, thinking it's sufficient. Everyone has their own approach. Doesn't mean it's wrong or right, but the point is, he said he used to hold back for a while.
بعد التباحث مع بعض طلاب العلم، وبعد أيضا استماع لبعض الخبراء في هذا المجال.
So, two things. So after doing some research, Tabaha did some research with some of the students of knowledge. So generally we find the structure in Saudi Arabia, I guess in other countries as well, but you have what's called the ulama, or called the scholars. And then you have, generally speaking, those who are studying to become scholars, or known as tullab al-ilm, or students of knowledge. How are you exactly define who is a student of knowledge and who is a scholar? That's another discussion. But the point is, he has students that are around him, that surround him, that he knows of, that may have more information about Bitcoin. He's been doing some research with them. And also he mentioned some khubara, some people who are well known, or those who are experienced in the space of Bitcoin. So he did some research and did some questioning, did some digging deep into this to get some understanding about Bitcoin.
أنها جائزة والله أعلم.
And his conclusion was, after all of that, was that it is permissible and Allah's best.
وأنها عملة كسائر العملات، لكنها عملة من نوع خاص.
So, alhamdulillah, he said that Bitcoin is like any other currency, except it's a very unique type of currency. So, he's understood that you have dollars, yen, euros, pounds, shillings, dinar, dirham. You have different kind of currencies, And Bitcoin is a currency just like any others, but it's a very unique and specific type of currency. That's what he says.
وأن ما يقال من التغرير فيها أنه يسري في الأموال الأخرى أيضا.
And so that's the things that I mentioned against it, the objections I mentioned against it. Then you find these things in other currencies as well.
يعني مثلا هم التذبذب الكبير الذي فيها هذا موجود في الأسهم.
As for the volatility, the price going up and down, you find that also in stocks. And this is interesting because I have a series of 20 odd videos dealing with the objections that people have against the Bitcoin from the ulama, from others, and this is one of them, dealing with the volatility. And this one of my answers to that was, what those objections leveled towards Bitcoin also apply to everything else. So why the double standards? But Sheikh has pointed out, yeah, the same thing.
خاصة الأسهم التي يعني غير محددة ارتفاعا وانخفاضا.
Specifically in terms of those stocks that are not limited in terms of the range. So some markets only allow the movement per day a certain percentage before they do circuit breakers or they stop trading. So he's saying that even those markets that don't have those circuit breakers or don't have those limits, they move wildly like Bitcoin as well.
عندنا في المملكة محددة ارتفاعا وانخفاضا ب10%.
So he said that in Saudi Arabia, stocks are limited going up or down by 10%. So the markets over there are not free markets like you have anyone could do anything or buy and sell anything. When it gets to plus 10%, minus 10%, trading halts.
في بعض الدول مفتوح المجال. فيقول بعض الخبراء
But some countries, it's open to trade.
الماليين إن يعني التذبذب الذي يكون في الأسهم المفتوحة هو مثل التذبذب الذي في البيتكوين أو أشد.
So he says that some of the financial experts, they say that the fluctuation or the volatility that you find in some of those open markets are like Bitcoin or even worse than Bitcoin.
فيلزم من منع البيتكوين أو العملات الرقمية لأجل هذا التذبذب أن يمنع أيضا التعامل بالأسهم.
So those who say that Bitcoin is haram due to volatility need to necessarily also say the same about those stocks.
فالأقرب والله أعلم هو أنها جائزة.
And that which is most closest to the truth is that it is permissible, and Allah knows best. And again, I'm not trying to boost myself. I'm just saying that this exact response was a response I've been given for the last 5-6 years, that those objections laid towards Bitcoin, all of them, or most of them I should say, existing other than Bitcoin. So if Bitcoin is haram due to that, then those other things also need to be haram due to that. And he mentioned here the example of stocks, and I'll also mention an example of silver. Silver itself, which is also something you pay zakat on. I mean, everyone agrees is money. Silver moves quite a lot. Silver moves sometimes on some certain days more than Bitcoin.
الأصل هو الجواز. الأصل في المعاملات الحل والإباحة إلا ما.
And now he mentioned the second point, which I have a whole video on. So the general rule of all transactions or financial transactions is that it is halal, it is permissible.
ورد الدليل منعه ليس هناك.
Except if there's evidence to say that it is prohibited. So that is a very important principle, very important qaida, and this is how you begin your discussions when it comes to discussing halal and haram, especially in terms of mu'amalat, things that you deal between people. If we start the discussion that it is halal, and then we say look for evidence that it is haram. We don't start from the discussion that it's haram and look for how it's halal. We start from it being halal and then look for it to be haram. So the Shaykh just refers back to that well-known principle.
مانع يمنع يعني من الجواز.
There's nothing here that prevents Bitcoin from being permissible.
وأما ما ذكر من جهات المصدر أو نحو ذلك هذه غير مؤثرة في الجواز لأنها هي.
As for, he mentioned the third point, as for those who say that one of the reasons why it's haram is because where it comes from, i.e. we don't know who Satoshi is, it's not come from the government, the masdar, the source of Bitcoin, then that doesn't prevent it from being halal, prevent it from being halal.
مشفرة.
And the reason why he says, this is important, and this is important to pay attention to what the Shaykh is saying, and I'll talk about why. He said the reason why it doesn't matter where it comes from is because it is encrypted. There's encryption involved. Listen carefully what he says next.
لذلك التزوير فيها صعب جدا.
And therefore, because it is encrypted, counterfeiting in Bitcoin is extremely difficult. Extremely difficult. I will go one step further than the Sheikh, and I'll say it's actually impossible to make a fake Bitcoin. I could lie to you and deceive you that you received Bitcoin by verbally, but if they was to verify it through their own node or through almost any wallet that you have, there's no way to fake a Bitcoin in a person's wallet. Not necessarily just because it's encrypted, but because of the way the system works. And we have videos that discuss how Bitcoin works. Refer to those ones, inshallah.
بل إن يعني كما ذكر بعض الخبراء أن غسيل أموال.
So he mentions now that some experienced financial people in the financial space, they say
والتزوير في العملات الأخرى احتماليته أكبر من العملات الرقمية.
That counterfeiting, the possibility of having counterfeit notes or money in other currencies is more likely than in Bitcoin. And like I said, I can make a fake dollar, I can make a fake pound, I can even make a pound coin or the notes, and you may think, okay, is it counterfeit, not counterfeit? There are ways of seeing if it is or isn't, but it's more likely to be or there is a possibility of being counterfeit with fiat money. But I'll say, and he says less. He's saying Shaykh saying it's less likely to find that in case with Bitcoin. But I'm saying it's actually impossible. There's no way you can receive in your wallet Bitcoin that's not real Bitcoin.
فالأقرب والله أعلم هو أنها جائزة وأنها.
And the most closest opinion to the truth is that it is permissible. So obviously, as you can see here, the Shaykh has understood enough to know more about the reality of Bitcoin and thought about more deeper on issues than I would suggest that all those other fatwa, only because the way he describes Bitcoin is more in line with how others describe Bitcoin to be. And this brings back to the point I've always mentioned to people for years now, is that al-hukmu far'un an tasawwurihi. So having an opinion on something is an extension of your perception of it. If you perceive it to be one way, you're going to give a ruling based on that perception, and likewise other than that. So you can see here the Shaykh is describing it and has understood Bitcoin to be a certain way, which is more in line with how we all know, those of us Bitcoiners know it to be.
التعامل بها لا بأس به. هذا هو الذي ظهر لي مؤخرا في هذه المسألة والله تعالى أعلم.
And interacting with Bitcoin is fine. That's what's become apparent to him lately, and Allah's best. Yeah. So that's the end of that fatwa. So hopefully you benefited from this short video, and just want to draw some points. So we had objections to do with some say that money must be gold and silver. I have a video on that one. That's not a valid argument. There's nothing in the Quran or Sunnah which says you must use gold and silver. It mentions money as gold and silver, but doesn't mean that you can't use anything else as gold and silver. It mentions that it has to come from the government, as the Sheikh said. Where it comes from is irrelevant because it's encrypted. It mentions many people mention the issue of volatility, and as the Sheikh has mentioned, volatility is irrelevant because it exists everywhere else. And if you look at all other objections, they exist in other things. So volatility was one of them. Where it comes from is another of them. Satoshi is unknown is another one. Some say money must come from a government. Again, that's another fallacy. There's nothing in the Quran or Sunnah which suggests that the government must be the issuer of money. Our government could be, but it doesn't mean it has to be. Anyway, without making this video longer than it needs to be, hopefully we benefited from this. Wa sallallahu ala Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Actually, what I'll do, I'll play it one more time without my interruption, just for those who want to hear it without me speaking.
التعامل بالعملات الرقمية مثل البيتكوين، يعني كنت متوقفا فيها يعني مدة طويلة، ثم ظهر لي مؤخرا بعد التباحث مع بعض طلاب العلم وبعد أيضا استماع لبعض الخبراء في هذا المجال أنها جائزة والله أعلم، وأنها عملة كسائر العملات لكنها عملة من نوع خاص، وأن ما يقال من التغرير فيها أنه يسري في الأموال الأخرى أيضا. يعني مثلا هم التذبذب الكبير الذي فيها هذا موجود في الأسهم، خاصة الأسهم التي يعني غير محددة ارتفاعا وانخفاضا. يعني عندنا في المملكة محددة ارتفاعا أو انخفاضا ب10%، لكن في بعض الدول مفتوح المجال. فيقول بعض الخبراء الماليين إن يعني التذبذب الذي يكون في الأسهم المفتوحة هو مثل التذبذب الذي في البيتكوين أو أشد. فيلزم من منع البيتكوين أو العملات الرقمية لأجل هذا التذبذب أن يمنع أيضا التعامل بالأسهم. فالأقرب والله أعلم هو أنها جائزة. الأصل هو الجواز، الأصل في المعاملات الحل والإباحة إلا ما ورد الدليل منعه، ليس هناك مانع يمنع يعني من الجواز. وأما ما ذكر من جهالة المصدر أو نحو ذلك هذه غير مؤثرة في الجواز، لأنها هي مشفرة، ولذلك التزوير فيها صعب جدا. بل إن يعني كما ذكر بعض الخبراء أن غسيل الأموال والتزوير في العملات الأخرى احتماليته أكبر من العملات الرقمية. فالأقرب والله أعلم هو أنها جائزة، وأن التعامل بها لا بأس به. هذا هو الذي ظهر لي مؤخرا في هذه المسألة، والله تعالى أعلم.
Yep. One last thing. So there are other scholars who have mentioned something similar to this. Abdurrahman al-Barrak is one of them, I think. There's actually a research paper done, or I think a master's in Medina University, that was done years ago. That's from back in the 2017 or even before that. I think by Abdul Samad something or the other. There are a few that have come out, but inshallah this will be the first of many, as others probably hear what he has to say. They think, okay, why does he say that? They'll look into it more like he has, and they'll find out more information that it is as we know it to be. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.